Now, before you ask, right here, as you can see, I am wearing a nice, comfy coat because it is cold outside. So if you guys are worried whether or not it's cold in here, it's a little cold, but I can manage. But thinking about cold, I start to think about people's interactions, as in people with no personalities, which ultimately lead into how I think society works. I know, terrible segue there, but nonetheless, we are talking about a TV show that just came out last year that is probably going to make waves going forward, and that show is none other than Pluribus. Now, quick little disclaimer, if you have not watched the show, I will be mentioning spoilers, but just like so you know, I'm not even going to put up a spoiler warning up here. It's a show that you must go and see and enjoy because it's fantastic as to how it is constructed and it's written. And trust me when I say this is amongst one of the most interesting shows on Apple TV. But I just wanted to say I will be discussing spoilers, so just thought you should know. Now, Apple TV has been on a freaking roll as of lately. I mean, I think probably some of my favorite shows on television right now are on Apple TV. You know, you have shows like Severance. You have shows like The Studio. You have shows like Monarch. And obviously now you have, Pluribus, which is amongst one of the best shows on Apple TV, simply due to the overall story that it tells. And I think that it brings about such an interesting concept of like making the world one, like literally one person, essentially. So everybody knows who you are, everybody knows everything about everyone else, and it's almost like everybody is unified as one person. It's a very interesting concept to wrap your head around. And how that comes to be, you know, the whole process of them finding a signal that comes from space and then them finding out that it essentially is a gene code that they could, you know, develop a sort of virus out of, and ultimately that virus connects everybody on Earth. I think that is a genuinely brilliant concept because you start to think about it, it's basically like The Walking Dead, except everybody is essentially alive and everybody knows who you are and your stories and knows about your partner and knows about, you know, your first grade teacher and how she used to operate. I mean, all those little details are absolutely fantastic. And I gotta give it up to Vince Gilligan. What a brilliant idea out of him and the whole writing team that he employed for this show, because honestly, it is incredible writing and truly pushes you to think a little bit more about our humanity and how we need to start thinking a little bit more about the people who are close to us, or the people who are our neighbors, or our, you know, people who we cross paths with, and our interactions with those people. So definitely a show that pushes boundaries in such ways that will definitely make people rethink how they deal with their day-to-day lives. And one of the greatest factors of this show is also the casting as well. You have your titular character with Ray Seahorn playing Carol, who I think is fantastic. This is the first time I'm actually seeing Ray Seahorn in anything. Now, I know that she worked with Vince Gilligan prior to this on Better Call Saul, so I mean, I'm aware of her work. I've just never seen her in anything, so I know where she's coming from when it comes to Vince Gilligan. But I think she does great on this show. I think she acts as though, you know, she's someone who's genuinely concerned of like trying to bring things back to the way it used to be. And it's interesting. Her methods, the way that she plays around with the methodology of actually tackling the situation is really interesting. And I think most people would probably do these things naturally, but I feel like she has like an investigative spirit in that sense. Like she wants to find out what's going on, you know, like Carol is like very much like, we gotta bring it back. These people are pain in the butts and all that. So that entire process is very well played out. And honestly, knowing that possibly we're going to get a season 2 now, I am very interested in seeing where this show leads with her. And then you have the opposing side of the coin with Carlos Manuel Vesga, who actually plays Manusos. And he's fantastic on this show, even though the show isn't entirely about him in a way. It's very centric on Carol. But with the way it's set up, he's kind of like the second like titular character, I would say. Like he's the second protagonist in the story, even though he's kind of set up as like an antagonist to the overall Pluribus, people, all the connected people. But yeah, I think he's fantastic. He's great. He has different methodologies than actually, how Carol wants to do things. He actually wants to bring it into the scientific level. He's testing things. He's trying to see how one thing affects, these connected beings. So honestly, he plays the perfect, opposite side of the coin to Carol. And ultimately now seeing how they're going to work together to sort of fix this is going to be very interesting. And obviously we can talk about the singular titular character that actually represents the overall Pluribus, as we've come to, call them, call the connected human spirit, human species as the Pluribus or the Pluribi, or, these connected beings as the Pluribus. So the person representing them to Carol in this case, who is played by Carolina Vidra, who plays Zosha in this case. Zosha is great. I mean, she has to kind of play it. Carolina has to play this character kind of, robotically in a way, but I feel like it works. It just works in this case. It works because these people, they don't have any sort of emotion. They're emotionless. There's nothing there. It's just memory and just pure kindness, and that's about it. That's it. It's just like about, almost like a brainwashing of sorts, where you're physically connected to everybody else. So obviously your instinct is just to help people. So she has to play that being that's connected. And obviously there are moments where there are hard moments where, Carol is like really angry and pissed off, and she's like very like, I wouldn't even say stern. Like she has to play it almost flat with no emotion. And obviously there are moments where she has to like act out, like she's like, twitching, like everybody in the world is twitching because of the situation. And she does that very well. She is a great actress, absolutely great actress, and having to like represent the entirety of humanity in one person is kind of a hard concept to grasp sometimes. But Carolina actually does that beautifully well, and I'm very happy that they got her to play in this incredible show. And obviously we get incredible, footage of this show. The cinematography of this show is incredible. It's shot beautifully well. Obviously, Vince Gilligan gets the right people to actually do this incredible show, and I'm just absolutely surprised every second there's like a really interesting shot that is taken, or there's like a nice little montage that they build into the show that like really gives you like really great transitions into one section to another. I just love how the show is shot. Very well made. Deserves to be seen on a big screen if you have that opportunity. I wish there was an opportunity to see this entire show in a theater, because that would be very interesting, but incredible cinematography all around. Now, there is some really interesting cameos on the show that I didn't expect to see, but I believe that they're probably going to drop some interesting little cameos throughout the second season. But as for the first season, I think two very notable cameos in this show. The first one obviously being John Cena popping up for a little cameo where he has to explain to Carol what the liquid that they drink is. So that was really interesting. that little concept is very interesting to see him pop up, and it was very comedic. I laughed my ass off when I saw that. And the second one is like not of an actor, but only like a fun fact that the actual mayor of Albuquerque pops up. Like, that's the actual mayor. Like, when you see Carol turning and saying, "Wait, you're the mayor," like, that is the actual mayor of Albuquerque. It's not just a line. Like, that's the actual mayor of Albuquerque that's actually there. So it's really cool to see that little like touch that Vince included into the show, just to make it a little bit more authentic in a way. So where do I see this show going? Well, based on how we saw how it ended, with the ending of the first season, we get obviously the scene of Carol coming back from having talked to, Zosha and saying like, "Hey, what do you mean you can change it?" But now Zosha has to explain like, "Hey, we found a way that we can change you. And we found out through your, eggs that you donated that ultimately now we can make a kind of concoction to actually get you to connect with everybody else." And that kind of hurt Carol because Carol wasn't wanting to change. So I feel like going into the second season, she's going to be very vindictive. Sort of how she's been vindictive since the very beginning of the show. So I expect her to be a little bit more unhinged, but using a process of logic in it all. Because what I think is very interesting is that this show, not once is she ultimately like being stupid. Most of the time she's just trying to like grasp at things in order to see if there's some sort of like crack in there where she can like insert herself or insert some level of humanity into these, Pluribus people. So I definitely want to see where she takes it in the next season. I know Manusos is going to play a huge role going into the next season because he is learning like, code, and he's trying to learn how to, work with radios in order to tune into a frequency, which would then, sort of like take them out of the sort of state of craziness. So I do expect Manusos to be sort of like the heart of the show in terms of finding out what's going on. As where Carol is going to be a little bit more reckless, he's going to be a little bit more centered. So that's going to be interesting to see. Do I think Zosha is still going to be a central part in Carol's life? Absolutely. She's probably going to pop in a couple times, but I want to know how this show is going to continue now that essentially she has an atom bomb. Like, Carol literally asked a couple episodes prior, what would they even give her an atom bomb if she asked for it? And essentially they did. At least that is what it looks like. I hope it's not like a joke where she's like, "No, it's just a bunch of equipment that you can use." I mean, it would be really interesting to think that she has that level of, military equipment to her disposal. So I want to see how they handle that, or if that's just going to be like a card where she uses. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I think it's going to be very interesting, and I can't wait to see season 2 to find out more. Now, this is something that I actually was thinking about, as I was watching the show and trying to draw similarities to other shows or other properties that, I've been familiar with. So I did think about Walking Dead as one of the shows that kind of reminds me of this. And another show that actually popped up, which frankly not a lot of people talk about, is The Last Man on Earth. Now, frankly, my dad was watching Last Man on Earth as we were watching Pluribus around the same time, so ultimately speaking, it could have influenced. But ultimately, two things actually play out here. The fact that Carol is kind of like the singular woman, the last woman on Earth, with all these other people who aren't really connected or emotional in any way. And you also have these other people who are sort of interacting, sort of like in The Last Man on Earth, which these people kind of don't really like this person, but they kind of have to like accept her in a way, even though they really don't like her. But drawing the comparisons between these two shows, you can definitely see where this show is a whole lot stronger in terms of its story and its direction compared to something like Last Man on Earth, where it just kind of like dragged on. It's a show that was essentially about people surviving, but there was nothing happening. A show that progresses, its character, where it can take your character from their point A to another point, like a point B situation. Awesome. Not location-wise, but like growth-wise. So if you can take your character from point A to point B on a show, that's progress. Last Man on Earth never had that progress. So looking for something like that, looking for like a progression in Carol, in that character, honestly makes this show way more interesting than other, sort of like apocalyptic shows. Even though you could label this show as an apocalyptic show, there's no such thing in this show other than the fact that humanity has just become almost unified, or literally unified in this scenario. And someone who I usually talk to about these shows and watch these sorts of shows with is my dad. He did something really interesting, which he never does, which is he actually took the show as we were watching it. We were already like on the second to last episode, okay? And he said, you know what? I'm going to go back and I'm going to rewatch the entire season. I'm going to binge the entire season from beginning to now to see if I missed anything. Now, the first watch, he actually watched the show and he was like, yeah, it's okay. It's interesting. But I want to see if I missed anything. So when he went back and he rewatched the show, which he never does, he's never done this before. He said that on his second watch through, he was like, okay, I caught a lot more things this time around, and I have to say, this show is way better than I even thought it was. And that comes to like a conclusion of mine, which is sometimes on your first watch through, you're probably going to be confused or not know what's going on, but once you actually rewatch the show and see where it's going, that's where things start to get really interesting. So I would suggest, if you watched Pluribus the first time around and didn't catch much or it didn't connect with you, go back and rewatch it again. Binge it if you have to. Because sometimes these week-to-week releases, which is something that I have to say I'm not a big fan of. I'm not a big fan of the whole week-to-week release schedule. I prefer to be like, okay, give me all the episodes, and I'll watch like one episode every day or one episode every other day and pace myself. That's the thing. But other than that, go back, rewatch Pluribus. If you missed anything, you're probably going to recatch it this second time around, because honestly, it's worth the rewatch. And like I say in every one of my videos, these are just my opinions, my thoughts, the things that go through my head as I'm watching a show, a movie, or anything media-wise. And I want to hear from you. What do you think of Pluribus? Have you watched Pluribus? Is Pluribus something that is on your watch list? I'm telling you, this is a great piece of sci-fi that definitely is going to get a lot more traction as more people watch it. And trust me, a lot is going on with this show that you're definitely going to want to go back and rewatch and see again. And trust me, this show is showing signs of massive success. I mean, heck, even Ray Seahorn has won both a Critics' Choice Award and a Golden Globe for this character, which means she is bringing some very necessary heat to, this year's Emmy Awards. So trust me, she is going to be a very much talked about name in this year's Emmy Awards. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see where this show is going. I really want to see it be successful. It's got a 98 on Rotten Tomatoes, so I have no doubt that there's definitely going to be incredible stories ahead for this show, and I can't wait to see them all. And like I say, these are my opinions, and you can put them down below so that we can have that discussion. And while you're down there, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell to be notified when new videos go live on this channel. And thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next video.
Scrolling through YouTube, same old routine, then bam, movie savant, what a scene. Trivia bombshells dropping knowledge like rain. Forget the dishes, gotta watch it again. Movie buffs unite, savants to place. Subscribe and hit the bell, don't leave a trace. Next level knowledge keeps you in the loop. Savants got the scoop, ain't nothing to recoup.